You've got two children.
Yes.
You've got Jack and you've got Amy. Amy's 4, Jack's 5. And you said from the age of 2, you noticed there was something a little bit different about Jack.
Yeah, basically, so I'm a nursery nurse, so I knew what I was looking for. So basically, he was like putting trains in certain positions, collecting stuff, and just doing a bit extra than he normally does. And then he was like walking when he was like nearly 2, crawling when he was like 9 months old. So I basically picked up habits that I know, and then that's when I applied to get him seen, basically.
Right.
He's in the green room playing at the moment. I think it might be with... there we go. We've got Digby in there as well, and he's got a train set we bought for him this morning.
He's loving.
And so you say that the good moods are good and the bad moods are terrible.
Yes, they are. So basically, if Jack has a meltdown, it can last between 5 minutes. If he doesn't have a breakdown, and it can be So basically, it be buckets. So the more pressure or stuff happening, stuff like that, it builds up and he can explode.
Yeah.
So it can literally...
So this
just depends on how his day is.
Yeah, so this day in question was one of these moments where it exploded. And so you're getting the train. This is last month. So you're travelling from Farnborough to Portsmouth. And he loves trains, as we can see. He's playing with trains. So normally a train journey, you get the fast train, you know what you're doing. It's all quite smooth and it's fine.
Yes.
But not on this day.
No. Basically, we ended up going to Portsmouth, seeing some family. And there was some delays, so we had to go from Winchester. So as soon as we got to Winchester, we was already on the train for an hour. It was already busy, hectic, extreme. As soon as we got off, we had to wait 20 minutes. So another railway had lost its tracks or something had happened. So it was overcrowded anyway. So it was obviously too much for him and he had to wait. Now, with Jack, you have to say, like, how long we're going to be, the train, the platform we've got to be on. He needs to know every part of detail. But because I didn't have it, I could not tell him. So then when we went on the train, that's when it all exploded.
And how does he kick off?
He can shout, swear, hit his sister, hits me, he'll hit strangers.
How do other people react? What have they said?
Well, when we was on the train and we got on there, I saw like loads of people looking at me. So basically, people starting to tut. I already heard a couple from behind saying, "Oh, bad parenting, bad mother. He's obviously a naughty child." And then I could hear them talking amongst themselves. So that's when I stepped up and I said, I apologise. My son has autism and ADHD. He cannot help it. Just bear with me. If I can get him calm, we will sit down. If not, I will move him to a quieter area so you can carry on your journey.
Well done you for doing that. You shouldn't have to do that.
No, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to move him for that.
So Dan, you were sat opposite, and so you were watching this all unfold. What was going through your head at the time?
Not very much. I was kind of just like slumped in a corner. I'd had quite a big night out the previous day down in Bournemouth with some friends. But I just, was sitting down on the table and you guys came and sat on the table kind of adjacent to mine. So all that stuff that you were talking about before about, explaining the autism and ADHD was like on the previous train on the platform. And so all I saw was, like, 2 kids quite lively, Amy and Jack kind of running around. And then I could see Jack was starting to get a bit, like, agitated. And I obviously didn't know, like, the circumstance at the time. But he was getting a bit agitated, like, climbing over chairs and shouting. And then I think you turned around and said something like, Jack, come on, show all these people how you can take your pills. And so at that point, so my mum's had a background kind of working with kids with special needs, and I've like been exposed to it my whole life. So at that point, I kind of realised that he had ADHD. I kind of guessed it was like Ritalin or something similar. So I just thought I'd kind of pipe up. So I was like, Jack, I take loads of pills every morning. It'd be really helpful, like, if you could show me how to take them. And they did.
And you're colouring in. And...
so Amy, Jack's sister, was already sitting kind of opposite me. So there was 2 people kind of to the side of me, and then Gayna and Jack were sitting on the opposite table, and Amy was sitting with me. So I just said, Jack, do you want to come sit and play with your sister as well? And I could see you were a bit stressed out.
You do a lot.
Well, it doesn't come up very much. I don't really get trains very often, to be honest with you. But no, I mean... Yeah, I suppose, things like that. I mean, for me, it doesn't really seem that different to, like, holding a door open for someone or holding the lift for someone. It's just, you just get the opportunity to do little things where you just
helping someone that needs it. And it did help. I mean, for you, I think you actually said, get yourself a hot drink and just relax.
Sit down.
And that was the first time you've been on a train?
I mean, we've been on loads of trains, like, because I don't drive, so we get loads of public transport. We have flashcards. So we obviously have to show where Jack goes and how long it's going to be and the times and everything. It's all by, like, numbers. So... when we ended up getting on there, and, like, Dan literally did step up, and I was like, wow. So I was like, are you sure? And I kept asking him, like, just to double-check and just reassuring him. And then, like, he basically was doing some colouring with Amy, and she was like, oh, wow, that's, like, really amazing. So then that got Jack's attention. But before this, he was, like, standing on the table and trying to cause more havoc.
Well, it's grown beyond that.
It's gone amazingly.
Yeah,
it's gone,
the meeting on the train.
I can't get over it.
You helping, and you were quite surprised it went on Facebook, and then it went viral, and then you get a round of applause when you go to work, and, you know, so all fantastic stuff. But then you launch Come to My Rescue.
Yes.
And what is that?
So I'll let Dan explain, because...
Yeah, so I think the idea behind that is that, so you know you mentioned the guy behind saying about kind of the bad parenting. So that was the guy sitting behind me on the train, and so I didn't kind of hear him say anything, but as soon as you two sat down, or you three sat down, he initially kind of like scoffed and tutted. And I remember thinking, oh, come on, this is not a very nice reaction, trying to, you know, be a bit more understanding. And then when I got off the train, the same guy kind of reached out and touched my leg, went, oh, well done, son, that was really nice, you're sitting and playing with the kids there. So what it kind of made me realise is that people, because we were talking about the ADHD and autism stuff on the train.
The journey,
so what it kind of made me realise is that, you know, people, I think when they have a, you know, understanding of like the wider context, generally are a bit more compassionate. I think the go-to reaction when a kid's crying in a shop is to think, oh, well, he's just not getting the sweets he wants or whatever. But I think, you know, a lot of the time there's going to be some kind of underlying problems here.
So it is that understanding and that knowledge, and a way of making this easier for people to understand is by a bit like the baby on board badges.
Yes, when you're in the underground and someone's pregnant and they're wearing a badge, they can sit down and they know they're pregnant.
And you're suggesting a badge specifically
for... basically, the Come to My Rescue would be like me to wear it. So it's showing people that you can approach us, because obviously, although people tuss and they get a bit funny, I think some people don't approach us because they think we might bite their heads off.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, sometimes we may do because we're already trying to sort out a child, but otherwise we're more like crying for help.
Yeah.
So this is why we've got this badge, so I can wear this badge saying, I literally need your help, come to me and, like, ask me if I need help, because I would rather someone come to me and help me, like Dan did that day, than tut and stare and make it even more worse for Jack.
It's a great idea, it really is, really is.
Yeah, because I think there's probably quite a lot of people, isn't there, who would, you know, if they felt it was kind of appropriate or normal, would. But, you know, you constantly hear everyone's so British and no one wants to talk to each other, and, you know, the nutcases on the train who look at each other on the tube in London or whatever. And actually, I think a lot of the time, people, if they could kind of just step up and help, would. I don't think people would view it as that big a thing. And the number of people, and we've had the kind of people commenting on the Facebook posts and stuff broken down to a few groups, and a lot of the people there were saying, they're kind of the tutters, you know, they're the people who would previously sort of tut and moan, but seem to have a bit of a better understanding now. So I think a lot of it comes down to just raising awareness.
It's a brilliant idea.
Good luck with
really
it.
Is.
I just love it.
Yeah, well done
really
you as well for stepping up in the first place.
Nice to meet you.